Good morning. Happy Monday. It's going to be a good day. Lots of reasons to be positive and optimistic. Stock market's way up on the news that there's a possible vaccine. Numbers of new cases are dropping. States are opening back up. Things are getting good, and the Oakland Raiders are going to win the Super Bowl. Yes, I said the Oakland Raiders. It's going to be a good week. Stay positive. Here's our lesson for today. We're still in Mark's Gospel. We're in chapter 12. We're in verses 13 down through 17. First date I ever took my beautiful wife Debbie on was Amadeus. Went to see that movie. And I don't remember too much about the movie that time I saw it because I spent the whole time nervous. And the reason I was nervous is I decided I'm going to try to hold her hand. Now, that's like a 3 hour movie, and I spent about the first 2 hours or so trying to work up the courage to hold her hand. Finally did, and then I spent about the last 50 minutes with my arm sound asleep because my hand was in an awkward position, but I didn't dare let go. And I was worried that leading up to holding her hand, I thought I'm going to try to do this and she's going to scream and call the police and I'm going to jail. Anyways, that's not the point. Here's the point. In Amadeus, there's this great scene where you have Salieri. Salieri is a composer, just like Mozart, but he's not as good. He's mediocre. And Salieri has one of his, I don't know what they're called, concertos, whatever they are, a performance of his music played, and Mozart is there. And afterwards, he asks Mozart, "What did you think?" And the answer Mozart gives is just, I love this answer. He says, "Well, one hears such sounds, and one can only think Salieri." Everybody sees exactly what he was doing with that answer. He was being evasive. He didn't really answer the question. Today's passage is like that. Jesus is facing another trap from the religious leaders, and he never really answers the question. He's asked if it's okay to pay taxes or not. And what's his answer? Well, give to Caesar what Caesar's, give God's what is God's. And everyone says, oh, that's a fantastic answer, but what does it mean? Are, are we supposed to pay taxes or not? Jesus never really answered the question. Well, that's what we're going to dive into today and find out what exactly was going on here. So let's start in verse 13 of chapter 12. And it says there, later they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. They came to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are." They're buttering him up right here. "But you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth." All right, here comes the question. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we? You see, here's the trap. If they asked if it's okay to pay for Jews to pay a tax to the Romans, every year, every Roman citizen had to pay the tax of 1 denarius, which was equal to about 1 day's wage. And they had to pay it to Caesar. And it could only be paid with a Roman denarius. It's kind of like now, you can't pay your taxes with Canadian dollars. It has to be US currency. Um, so you had to pay with a Roman coin. And the problem was it was a coin with Caesar's picture on it and an inscription proclaiming him to be a god. And the Jews wondered, technically, isn't this idolatry to pay that tax with that coin? So, Jesus, here's the question. Should we pay this tax to Caesar or not? If Jesus says, yes, pay the tax, then the Pharisees can run back to their people and say, he's okay with idol worship. This is supposed to be the leader taking us to God, and he's okay with idol worship. But if he says, no, a good Jew should not pay that tax, then the Herodians are going to run and they're going to go tell Herod, and Herod's going to tell the Romans, and the Romans will arrest Jesus for stirring up a tax revolt. That's the trap. No matter what he says, yes or no, he's trapped. And it seems unbreakable. And the fun here is watching exactly how Jesus gets out of it. So, how does he get out of it? Well, look at the second half of verse 15. But Jesus knew their hypocrisy. Why are you trying to trap me? He asked. Bring me a denarius, let me look at it. They brought him the coin, and he asked, Whose image is this? Whose inscription? Caesar's, they replied. Then Jesus said to them, Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. And they were amazed at him. Now, in just a minute here, I'm going to have to sneeze, so you're going to have to bear with me. If I seem like I'm getting emotional and starting to tear up, it's because I have to sneeze and I can't. Give me a coin. They give him the coin. Whose picture is on it? Caesar's. Okay, give Caesar's what is Caesar's. Give God's what is God. That's a great answer. It worked. It shuts these guys up. He doesn't get any trouble. He escapes. What did it mean? Because notice he never actually answered the question. It's a yes or no question. Is it okay to pay taxes to Caesar or not? And he says, well, render to Caesar what is Caesar's, render to God what is God's. What does that mean? Is it a yes or a no? Well, here's the thing. Don't think for 1 second that the issue here was taxes or the government. And Jesus' answer really wasn't about taxes or the government. The whole key here is that coin. And it's not just the coin, it's who has the coin. Notice very carefully, Jesus does not pull a coin out of his pocket. They didn't have pockets, but you know what I mean. He didn't produce a coin on his own and say, whose picture is on this? What does he do? He asks them for a coin. Do they have it? Wait a second. You guys have such a problem with paying a tax with this coin because it's got Caesar's picture on it. It's idolatry to pay this tax. If the coin is that bad, if the coin is that evil, if your beliefs are that strong, why do you have one of those coins? What are you doing running around with it? Oh, it's fine for you to use the coins to buy stuff for yourself. That's okay. That's not idolatry. But having to pay taxes, Jesus' whole point here, his whole little object lesson with this coin was to show their hypocrisy. The main thing here on Jesus' mind was this. Stop thinking that I have to answer to you. He shows them, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. Even on this issue, you're hypocrites. And you are chock full of sin yourself, and now you're thinking that I have to answer to you. You are in no position to tell anybody how good or how bad they are. You see, the real issue here is about hypocrisy. The real issue here is about being judgmental. Now, here's the thing. Who is Jesus talking to today? You know, there's something about being a Christian. There's something about giving up all those sins that sometimes makes us want to start pointing out how bad other people are and pointing out how bad non-Christians are and even how bad Christians are. Yeah, there are problems when we do that. There are three things that happen when we start worrying about the sins of other people. First, if we're going to be in charge of watching other people, guess who we aren't watching then? We're not watching God. Our eyes aren't on God, our eyes are on others. And when our eyes aren't on God, we can't see where we're going. Secondly, when we're judging other people, you know what we're leaving ourselves open for? Lots and lots of scrutiny. People resent being judged. They resent having their faults picked at. And the natural response is for them to try to find out something you're doing wrong. And guess what? They will be able to find it. And that means you. Unfortunately, it means me too. I don't like that part at all. Third, when we're judging and other people and their sins, being judged gets people defensive and angry. And it makes them see us as arrogant, as self-righteous. And that's bad Because when they see us as arrogant and self-righteous, they aren't going to buy what we are selling. In other words, we are a bad witness. Have you ever dealt with a hostile waiter or a hostile salesman? All of a sudden, you don't want to spend money. I had a car salesman yell at me once. That was it. We were done. When people look at us as hostile and arrogant, they don't want the Jesus that we're trying to tell them about. What we should be about is grace, because without grace, we are nothing. We should be telling sinful people not how bad they are. We should be telling them how awesome God is. Because if anyone has no right whatsoever to be judgmental or arrogant, it's us. You know why? Because we understand we are saved by grace, that without grace we are nothing. And if we don't understand that, we better learn it in a hurry, because that's the way things are. It's a shame that Christians have gotten this reputation of being the morality police, because we should be known as the people who have the answer, and the answer is grace. It's a way out of what is dragging people down. It's a way to be made whole. It's a way to be made clean. And we should be known as the people that are pointing that out. The issue here was really not about taxes. It was about self-righteousness. It was about being judgmental. It was about being hypocrites. We should be known for being people of grace. I'm going to close by telling you this story. Years ago, I had a guy come to church, and afterwards, as people are milling about, this is in the days that we could actually meet together for church, but that's a whole nother story. As people were milling about at the end, he comes up to me, he introduces himself, and I could tell this guy was not comfortable. He was a little sheepish, and he said, Pastor, I just have to tell you, I just got out of prison. I mean, last week, I got out of prison. And he told me what it was for. It was not a violent offense. It wasn't against people. It was for stealing. But he had just gotten out of prison. And he said, you could tell he was kind of thinking, is it okay for me to be here? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I probably didn't handle this the way I should have. And the way I handled it probably sent a lot of mixed messages and got him confused at first. But when he told me he just got out of prison, I went, you did? He said, yeah. I said, stay right here. Don't move. Stay here. And I ran off. Now, I'm sure he had to be thinking, okay, is he going to get security? What is he doing? And a few minutes later, I come running back and I'm dragging a guy with me. And I said, you've got to meet this guy. I'm not going to use their real names. I say, Bob, this is Joe. I said, Joe just got out of prison. Bob is going to prison and he's scared. Could you talk to him and tell him what it's like? Could you help him? And you could see that made such a difference for both of them. For both of them. It was a comfort for one. Actually, it was a comfort for both. And I like to think that both of them saw church then as a place of help, as a place of grace, as a place of encouragement, rather than a place of condemnation. That's who we're supposed to be. Have a great day. Stay positive. We'll see you tomorrow.